Hi, you already read the title, so let's talk. I wanted to bring up a lot about the June Joust recently because it's kind of been on my mind a lot because it's been such a fucking anomaly in terms of teams that are winning, in terms of what's being played. Everything just kind of seems out of whack, and I think it's something that's really strange that I want to, I guess, kind of figure out why it's happening, or at least get a discussion going of why it's happening, because I do think that there is a reason. I might not know that reason, but I think if we get enough people talking about it, it might just be able to be solved. And I was just looking at, like, just how crazy some of these upsets are in terms of, and I can just like list off a few of them, being like Guangzhou beating NYXL being the Fusion, Paris winning a fucking game, there, and then Spark obviously 3-0ing the Dragons. Like, these are teams that are, at least on one end of the spectrum, very respectable in some aspect, in terms of people really like Fusion in May Melee in May. Washington was looking really good. Dragons obviously were like came in second place. Like, there's all these different things, and now these different teams are coming out of nowhere. And I think I'm trying to discover if it's a fluke. And if I really quickly look up what the definition of a fluke is, because that is what I'm trying to kind of decipher. Like, it is definitely one thing to say that, like, Paris had a really good day and Justice had a really off day, just for example, and saying that, like, that is a like statistical anomaly, and that game is a fluke. But seeing, like, that I can just list off like 4, if not more, examples of teams that are completely like 180 upsetting people, that's a hard thing to say is a fluke necessarily. But the reason I think it's happening is because of how reliant, more or less, Tracer was in the last, I guess, kind of portion of the main, in the May Melee, because it is a very hard transition. Because, and people have said this time and time again, that no other DPS does what Tracer does in terms of the duels she can take, the aggression she can take, the pressure she can emit. There's so much stuff Tracer can do, and it's almost unmatchable. And her getting banned for June Joust is kind of throwing everyone in a complete loop. Now, do I think that none of these score lines, none of these games are viable, or that none of them should be counted for? Absolutely not. I do think that there are, like, portions of like a fraction of these games that maybe you can be or you can kind of discount them a little bit, not in the term of like physically, because obviously that's going to show up on their record, but what does this mean long term? And I think for some of these teams, it's gonna mean their flexibility overall. And some people, if I had to single out a team that I singled out was Fusion, because I was like, what is really going on? And I really wanted to pull through with this Tracer theory. So I went through, I watched all of the Tracer games, or all of the Fusion games from the May Melee, and they played, I believe, 21 maps. And looking at all those, I wanted to see how many maps out of those maps they played Tracer on, because, like, realistically, Fusion last I want to say last split, because that feels more natural, but it's not. Fusion during the May Melee beat the Hunters and beat, everyone was beating the NYXL. But now NYXL come out, beat Fusion's ass. Chengdu comes out, does the same thing. What is happening with Fusion specifically that's causing them to get upset? And I think it was their reliance on Tracer. And I bring that to you because of this statistic that I came up with, that Tracer was played out of the 21 maps. This isn't scrims, this isn't whatever. This is like out of the 21, professional official matches that were played, Tracer was played on 17 of them, and that's not including stall picks, because there were a couple times that they would just pick Tracer for a little bit of a stall pick. I don't count those, but that is 80% of what the Fusion were playing last month. So it makes sense that them transitioning to this in not exactly a short period of time, but not being able to adjust, it might just not be their thing. And I don't know how long this is going to go on for. So I'm kind of scared for the overall, like, amount of people. And that's why I also bring up that, like, on my pick'ems, I've been getting pick'ems wrong left and right. So has everyone else. But, like, I predicted Spark to win. Spark versus Dragons, because of how well Shy has been performing on characters that are not banned, as opposed to, or also it's worth mentioning that Dragons now have Lip without Tracer and without Sombra. And with that, you still have a confident hit scan, but you have a confident hit scan without his staples, which I think are really what's going to put the nail in the coffin for some of these teams. And whether a team can exploit that or not, being like the example of the Chengdu Hunters getting 3-0'd, I don't know. But it's something that I wanted to bring up and I guess kind of get off my chest, because there's a lot that I want to talk about, and there's a reason that I'm doing all these discussion videos, because they're fun. I fucking love just talking about shit. And being able to get people that like DM me, which I've completely appreciated, by the way, whether you're fucking DMing me individually or just talking in my comments, I appreciate the fuck out of it. But getting back on track, I don't know what this means for every team, but I also will preface it with, not every team is played. And I mean, some people were really shocked by how bad the Justice are doing, but and I think I called this in the what I believe was the Melee look back. I don't think Justice really got tested that much in the Melee, and now they're coming out of the gate getting tested. So I don't know if they'll be able to spin this back around or what's gonna happen, but if there's anything that I want you to take away from this, is that out of the Paris 3-0 of the Washington Justice, do not give any credit to Dredro. I will rip him a new asshole very momentarily. I promise you that. And even though they got a clean 3-0, I'm going to watch that exact VOD back. I'm going to watch every map and tell you everything he did wrong very soon. But in the future, like, I don't know how much this is really gonna fuck with people. And where I'm also kind of confused about is where the consistency is with the Melee, because Melee hero pools weren't a thing. The way that I thought it was gonna go down was you played the qualifiers and nothing happened there. It was just qualifiers were their own entity, and that was it. But now, moving into this, it's so weird to me that now, throughout all of qualifiers and throughout playoffs, I don't know why they're all banned all of a sudden now. It's very confusing to me. But I don't know. I like this though, and I like this because I've said this multiple times, the patch we're on right now has gotten so boring. You've seen all the fucking mech crush kills that you've needed to last you a fucking century. We don't need any more. We don't need any more meme shit. We don't need anything. But now we're, in my eyes, at the very least, gonna have to sit throughout the rest of the June Joust before seeing a new patch played on Owl. And more or less probably wait until June. I'm trying to think of a good time frame, because I think maybe after the anniversary event is over is probably when we're going to get a new experimental, which I'm extremely excited for, even though there's a high chance they probably just won't touch it, just because the game is quote unquote balanced, which is just kind of boring because they've done it for so long. Man, okay, I'm rambling a bit, but I really wanted this to, I guess, show that this isn't necessarily a fluke, but I really want a lot of people to take note of what's happening, and that this is happening due to hero pools. Now, I agree with hero pools. Again, I do like them, but I don't know why there's no consistency. It's not like play whatever the fuck you want in qualifiers and then boom, hero bans for playoffs. It just seems to be whatever they want it to be, which is very annoying. But regardless, I mean, if I'm looking at a couple teams like going into next week, teams that I really want to look at are stuff like the Shock, just because of like if you're looking at teams that have very broad, like the more flexibility the better, and that's something that has been talked up time and time again with Shock for a very good reason. Now we're gonna see if they can actually put that to the test the next time they play, which that's what I'm looking forward to. I don't know if you guys look forward to it as well, but this has been a rough first week. Very interesting, and I'll definitely have to keep my eyes out for, I guess, more of seeing just how much this goes, or just how deep this goes. But regardless, I think that's all I had to say, so I appreciate you all for watching. Follow me on Twitter so you can know whenever I upload, and with that being said, I will see you when I see you. Later.